Hello and welcome to today's science lesson. So first of all, guys, can we all turn to wave and say a big hello to our friends on camera? Hello. Hello. And we'll begin by doing our meditation sequence. So I will sit down, take 2 fingers, find our heart center, left hand on our lap, and close our eyes. And when you're ready, guys, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. Excellent. And next we'll do our stretch sequence. So let's stand up and push in our chairs. And we'll begin by stretching up high to the sky. High as we can. And then we'll go down low, touch our toes. And now we'll go back up high one more time. And this time, can we go tippy toe high? And while we're there, let's have a wave. Wave side to side. Excellent, guys. And then one more time, back down to our toes. And now let's stand up and have a shake. Shake it out. Arms and legs, shake it out. Very good, guys. And next, we'll do some rotations. So let's go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Very good. Next, we'll do 5 stretches to our right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next, we'll do 5 stretches to our left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent, guys. And to finish, we're going to do 5 claps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent, guys. Have a seat. So in our previous science lesson, we began learning about our final category of living things. Remember, this was the final group that were not like all of the other different things. They weren't quite like animals. They weren't like plants. And they certainly were like humans. So we had to classify them as other living things. So let's write that phrase on the board. T-H-E-R. Other living things. Living, L-I-V-I-N-G. And then things. T-H-I-N-G-S. So that phrase altogether, guys, other living things. Altogether, other living things. Very good. And if you can remember from the previous lesson, there were three main categories of other living things. Now, the first one began with F. Fungi. Well done. Yes, well remembered. So, let's write fungi on the board. F-U-N-G-I. Fungi. Our first category of living things, of other living things, was fungi. Now, who can remember anything about fungi? Fungi, what type of things do we have with fungi? Remember, sometimes we can eat them. Sometimes they're on our plates. They begin with the letter M. Mushrooms. Mushrooms. Well done. Yes, mushrooms are a very good example of fungi because they share the same characteristics. So let's write mushrooms, guys. M-U-S-H. R-O-O-M-S. Now, there were three different types of fungi. The first type, and the most well-known, the one that we see most often, mushrooms. But there's another type beginning with M, and this is the type of fungi that will grow in cold, dark, damp, wet places. Does anybody remember the type of fungi that we can see in dark, damp places? Begins with mold. Mold, yes. Mold is another type of fungi that can grow. And we spell mold M-O-U-L-D. And then there's one more final type of fungi, yeast. Now, yeast is something you might not see often, but you do use it a lot. You eat it quite often. Whenever you eat a cake or bread or things like that that require baking, that will be using yeast. And we spell yeast Y-E-A-S-T. So our three types of fungi that we learned about, guys, mushrooms, mold, and yeast. And we'll take another little look at them again today. But first, before we do that, does anybody remember the second category? Beginning with B, I heard it before. Bacteria. B-A-C-T-E-R-I-A. Bacteria. Yes. Now, what characteristics can you remember about bacteria? What did we say about bacteria? Was bacteria very big? No, it's very small. Bacteria is unbelievably small. So small, in fact, we can't see it with our naked eye. So let's write that thing on the board. Very small. R-Y-S-M-A-L-E. S-M-A-L-L. Very small. And does anybody remember the name of the special machine or equipment that we need in order to see bacteria? Not microphone, microscope. Microscope, okay? Microscope is a special machine that if you look into it, it can make things thousands or millions of times bigger. And for us to see bacteria, we need to use a microscope. So let's write that. I-C-R-O-S-C-O-P-E. Microscope is what we need to see bacteria. And where can we find bacteria, guys? In our bodies, yes. In our own bodies, there are thousands, maybe millions of different types of bacteria. Some of them are very helpful. They keep us alive, but others can be harmful, and they're the ones we have to be careful of. So we can find bacteria in humans. H-U-M-A-N-S. So enough on bacteria now, but we know bacteria is very small. We need a microscope to see it, and it can be found in humans. Yes. And then our final and third category of other living things. Algae. Yes, well done, well remembered. Algae is A-L-G-A-E. Now, who can remember where will we find algae? Where does algae grow? Water. Perfect. Algae will always be found in or around water. Different types of water sources, ponds, lakes, rivers. This is all types of places where algae can grow. So let's write water, guys. A-T-E-R. Now, think back to the previous lesson and the PowerPoint presentation. Does anybody remember the color of algae? What? Green, yes. Algae was always like a green color. That's the way it grows. And it's similar in one way to plants because it can produce its own food. But whenever you see algae, it will always be green. Excellent. Well done, guys. And do you remember that very long word? Yes, food is what it makes. Now, do you remember the long words we use for the process plants use to make food? Ready? Photosynthesis. Excellent. That's what algae can do too. It can produce its own food. F-O-O-D. So 3 things we know about algae. It grows around water. It's the color green. And it can produce its own food. Yes. And these are our 3 types of other living things. Fungi, bacteria, and algae. And we're going to take another look at these 3 types again today so that our students can better understand the different ways in which they can be found. So now, let's turn to look at the TV screen, guys, because we have some presentations for our students to observe and look at. So let's turn to look at the TV screen. And now, let's take a look at our PowerPoint presentation, Other Living Things, number 2. Yes, you can see in the left-hand column some of the living things we've learned of already. Plants, animals, and now bacteria and fungus. And you can see how different they are to non-living things. These are all natural resources, but they're not alive. Water, soil, air, minerals, and light, which of course comes from the sun. Besides plants and animals, there are other living things that are different. Yes, here on the left we can see something yellow. What is it? A flower, yes. This is a flower called a daffodil. And then on the right we can see an animal. Yes. And where does a dolphin live? In the ocean, in the water. It's a sea animal. It's a type of animal called a mammal. These other living things are fungi, bacteria, and algae. Fungi are a group of other living things that can be found around the world. Yes, every continent, every place you go to, you can find fungi. Examples of fungi are mushrooms, mold, and yeast. Now, what do you think this is in the picture? Mushrooms, mold, or yeast? Yes, well done, it's yeast. This is the things that we use for baking bread and cakes. And it's a type of fungi. And mushrooms are a type of fungi that we can sometimes cook and eat. Yes, look in the picture here, you can see some breaded, fried mushrooms. Do they look tasty? Yes, I think they look quite nice. They look like they might be nice to eat. But how about this? Does this look tasty? No. Mold can be found in dark and damp places where it likes to grow. Yes, what food can you see here, guys? Bread. But do you know what happens if bread gets left out too long? It becomes stale. And then you see all these spores here that begin growing on it? This is mold. This is when bread becomes rotten and the mold begins to grow. Yeast is a type of fungi that helps us to make bread, cakes, and alcohol. Yes, here you can see some bread, donuts, and cakes, but they haven't been baked yet. Here, they all contain yeast. And what yeast does, when we put it in the oven, yeast helps the bread and the cakes to rise. When it becomes hot, it gets bigger. And that's how yeast helps us to make bread and cakes. Now, bacteria are tiny living things that live inside all of us. And here in the picture, you can see some of the different types of bacteria that we can find in our bodies. You can see all the different shapes and colors. And remember, all of these are very, very, very small. We need microscopes to see them, but they're inside all of us. Bacteria can be different shapes and colors, and we need a microscope to see them. What colors can you see in the picture? Purple. Okay, now have a guess, where does this picture come from? Where do you think this picture is from? Inside our mouths. Inside our mouth are millions of bacteria like this. If we put a microscope to our mouth, we will see lots of things like this. Because our mouth is used for chewing food, there's lots of different types of food and bacteria in our mouth. And that's what it looks like when it's magnified millions of times. Millions. Now, algae is a group of other living things that can be found around water. Yes. And what color is algae, guys? Green. Green. You see all the green slimy stuff on the top of water? That's algae. Algae make their own food. Own food. Just like plants. And the name of that process again, photosynthesis. is the process of plants making their own food. Now, what they need to be able to make their own food, we can see in the picture. Water, light, and air. If we have them three things, algae and plants can make their own food. And algae can also be food, such as seaweed and kelps. Now, in the picture here, you can see a food called kelps. Has anybody ever eaten kelps? Yes, it's quite nice and healthy. And this is what algae looks like after it's been treated and made for us to eat. Any questions, guys? Okay, that was very well done. Welcome back to class. We hope your students enjoyed the video and PowerPoint presentations so that they can begin to learn about very small living organisms that we need to use a microscope to see. And that includes things such as bacteria, and it's a good introduction to the topic. And we also had another PowerPoint presentation about our three main categories of other living things. And soon, our students will demonstrate their understanding by drawing a picture of each of the main categories. But before then, we need to do our stretch sequence. So let's stand up, guys, and push in our chairs. And for this sequence, we will have a game of Teacher Says. So listen carefully, guys. If Teacher says, we can do. If it doesn't say, don't do. So hands on head. Listen for Teacher Says. Hands on knees. Teacher says, stand up straight. Teacher says, turn around. Teacher says, turn back the other way. And back the other way. Very good, guys. Hands in the air. Teacher says, hands in the air. Hands down. Teacher says, one hand's up, one arm down. Teacher says, swap. Teacher says, swap. Teacher says, swap. Swap. Listen for Teacher says. Teacher says, arms down. Teacher says, hands on head. Teacher says, touch your shoulders. Teacher says, one arm on stomach. Teacher says, one arm on head. Pat your head. Teacher never said. Teacher says, pat your head and rub your stomach. Can you do? Pat your head and rub your stomach. Teacher says, stop. Teacher says, into a ball. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Teacher says, jump. Excellent, guys. Now, Teacher says, please sit down. And now it's time for our worksheet part of the lesson. And for this activity, we want our students to demonstrate their understanding of the three different categories: fungi, bacteria, and algae. So what our worksheet asks them to do is there's the three categories and there's 3 empty boxes. We want our students to draw a picture and colour each of the different categories. So guys, category number 1, fungi. Mushrooms, yeast, or mould. So do a picture and colour it that represents fungi. Then we have bacteria. Remember, very small organisms that live inside the body. Many colours and many shapes. And then finally, algae. Now, what colour is algae? Has to be green, and it lives near water. So we ask our students to draw a picture and colour to show their understanding. So give them around 20 minutes for this activity, and we can monitor the class and help them with anything they need. And what's the first thing to do, guys? Write our names on top. Well done. So Chu, this one's for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Pat, for you. You're welcome. Nadia, here's your one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Net for you.
Thank you.
Down for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Pakbung for you.
Thank you, teacher.
Bangpon for you.
Thank you.
And Lakgao for you. You're all welcome, guys. So names on top first, and then have a think of the PowerPoint presentation in the last lesson and today's. So teachers, while our students are doing the drawing, it might be an idea to refer back to the PowerPoint presentation. If our students can't remember the pictures, you can change the slides for them to see. So if you need to see any pictures, guys, let me know. But if you can remember and draw yourselves, that's fine. So Nadia, that's excellent. Already I can see for fungi, Nadia is drawing mushrooms. Nadia is drawing mushrooms. So that's very good. And remember, mushrooms can be many different colours and many different shapes. And you can do more than one. Don't just have to have one mushroom. Perfect. Yes. And what colours? So remember, for fungi, there was 3 main types: mushrooms, yeast, or mold. I think most people are going for mushrooms, which I expected, because that's what we see the most. So Chu, for fungi, one of the best ways that we can represent fungi, mushrooms. Yes, you see here, on this picture, fungi involves mushrooms. So you could do a picture like that, which represents fungi. Excellent. And mushrooms, that's excellent, yeah. And mushrooms can be big, small, different colours. So it's up to you how you want to design your mushrooms, guys. I think mushrooms are better than yeast or mold. And bacteria, excellent. Bacteria are microscopic, very small. Okay? But you don't have to draw bacteria very small on your worksheet. You can pretend you have the microscope, so you can draw your bacteria bigger so that we can see it. Imagine your worksheet has the microscope already, so your bacteria can be seen. Because believe it or not, there's bacteria on your worksheet now. It's just so small you can't see it. True, that's excellent. Well done. You see? So that's a good example of fungi. Perfect. And bacteria. And then algae. Algae is the one that lives near water. Green slime. So you can do fungi and bacteria any colour you like, guys, but your algae has to be green. Yes. And you could do the food. Remember the food that can be algae, seaweed, or kelp? Excellent, Net. And bacteria can be lots of different shapes too. We could have some bacteria like this. Lots of different shapes, bacteria, and colours too. And that's good. So you can have different types of bacteria. Because, oh, excellent, Prao, yes. You have bacteria like this, and then we have other ones, different shapes and different colours. Perfect, yes. And now, colours too. Welcome back to class. We hope your students enjoyed the worksheet activity where they had to demonstrate their understanding of the 3 different types of other living things by drawing their pictures. And as you can see with the selection of my students, they've all done a brilliant job. They understand the difference between, ready guys? Fungi,
Fungi,
bacteria,
bacteria,
and algae.
and algae.
which are categories of other living things. And that's all we've got time for today. So we'll see you again soon in the next lesson. And can we all turn to wave and say goodbye, guys? Goodbye. Bye-bye.